Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scooby Doo Review. I'm your host, Zerk, though you probably know me better as Zerk Monster Hunter on YouTube. With me is my co host, Pen. Say hello, Pen.
Hello, Pan.
Today, we begin the second season of our podcast and the second era of Scooby Doo that we are covering. So put on your weird futuristic ski goggles and hop in your DeLoreans because we are traveling back to the 70s to examine the Scooby Doo Show. Not the most creative name in the world, I know, but as the Silver Age of Scooby, it was the second major incarnation following the original, of course. So it's bound to be filled with some interesting times, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. Due to the Twitter poll, which is on our Twitter at do_review, we are going to be reviewing 3 episodes each episode of this show. These episodes that we are reviewing today are episode 1, the High Rise Hair Raiser, the episode 2, the Fiesta Host is an Aztec Ghost, which is a painful title, and the gruesome game of the Gator Ghoul.
Looking
Gator
forward
Ghoul.
to that third one. So, without any further ado, let's begin by summarizing the story of our first episode, The High Rise Hair Raiser.
Okay, so coming in with that really great 70s funky disco theme song, which I really like the theme to the Scooby Doo show. It brings back some really good memories
Oh
of
yeah, no. Definitely some like blockbuster rental energy here. Well, Rogers Video here cuz we're Canucks, but
oh man, some
dude,
of
I so many times I associate this show's intro with DVD rentals in like 2007. That is the spot and that
that
is what this hits.
I would absolutely agree. So, uh, at a construction site for a skyscraper, a bunch of men are at work constructing this place when the Specter, a weird Dracula looking fellow, just kind of chuckles at everybody, and everyone's like, "The Specter!"
And then they just scatter
Just run
like
away.
dust in the wind.
You'd think that some of those big construction guys would be like, "Okay, who the heck is this? Why are you
Yeah.
on our construction site?" But no.
No, they just all run.
Mm-hmm. We then transition to Pizza Sal's.
Yeah, we go to Sam's Pizza where we hear the gang is, namely Velma, is reading an article in the newspaper. Oh man, remember those? Who about how there were many safe break-ins by culprits who seem to have known the combinations to the safe. Curiously, this is foreshadowing later. Anyways, we get a bit of the gang sort of goofing around as we get to see Scooby interact with Sam, the owner of Sal's Pizza, and Mr. Sam Sal begins tossing the pizza and manipulating it through the air.
Yes. This man can levitate pizza, and they do actually remark on this. It's not like a regular thing. They're like, a flying pizza? So Sal floats the pizza over to them and then floats it back over to him, leading us to believe that Sal has pizza manipulation.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Now, to direct the gang to the plot, we learn that Daphne has maxed her credit card that her parents gave her and has been since cut off. So the gang is out of money and needs jobs now that they've been cut off from Blake money.
Absolutely. So they find a job in the newspaper, leading them to this construction site featured in the intro.
Yeah. Fred and Shaggy get jobs here, and they are explained by the foreman that in order to build this high rise, they had to move an old ass haunted house.
Very spooky. This old house belonged to one Ebenezer, a man who purportedly is immortal,
Yeah,
lives forever.
or a ghost. I'm not sure. He keeps himself alive via black magic. It's basically a Dorian Gray reference. If anyone is familiar at all with the Portrait of Dorian Gray, I believe that book should be as famous as Dracula and Frankenstein, but alas, it is not. Um, sorry, that's just one of my opinions. And we actually spend a lot of time at this construction site here, setting up the investigation and the lore. But of course, this leads into some Tom and Jerry style shenanigans of Scoob and Shag interacting with the foremen and their construction jobs up on the high rise. How anybody let the dog up on the high rise is a wonder to me, but oh well, we needed it for shenanigans.
Him and
And we
Shaggy
get,
are a package deal.
yeah, and we get my personal favorite gag in the episode because the Scooby Doo Show was, interestingly, before the advent of musical chases, or I guess after, but it hadn't really become a convention at the time.
Yeah, no, we're not really rating chases anymore because we can't really, because a lot of them are kind of the same and they
Yeah,
all have the same music and it's them running around a lot.
yeah.
Let us also not forget about Mr. Jim Rivets, the man with a refrigerator for a chest.
Oh yes, Jim Rivets is, that man is an absolute unit. Uh,
Absolute unit.
but yeah, up during the Tom and Jerry shenanigans, we get my favorite gag in the episode where Scooby uses a bucket pulley to pull up the Specter not once but twice. The sheer absurdity of this gag is what gets me. It's just how do you, the ghost just fucks with them. It just, this whole episode is just the Specter fucking with the gang.
That's all it has ever been. They don't really do anything, just kind of chases them around and goes, yeah.
Yeah. Aside from that one shot where he's just in the window, just
Oh, he'd be
crapping
creeping.
around, just vibing. Uh, I'm sure we'll put an image up on screen if you're watching the YouTube video version of this. You'll get to see that lovely image.
As Fred, Shaggy, and Scooby are working on the construction site, Velma and Daphne are at the quote newspaper library, looking up on why this house or Ebenezer, who's supposed to be the Specter, is so angry. And they find out that the house has been moved, so the gang gets to back together again, and they go to this old house and find Ebenezer's granddaughter, a very old, very crone-like entity.
She's somebody's grandma.
Absolutely, she is. Yeah.
So so Velma, Shag, and Scoob poke around this old ass house, listening to Grandma just doing the very stereotypical old woman voice.
Old woman voice.
Have you
Oh,
seen my husband?
I can't find him anywhere. There's a bunch of skeletons in the closet.
You turned into Skeletor at the end there, but
Yes, He-Man. Yes.
maybe we'll have to review that at some point. Anyways, Scooby and Shaggy find a book of black magic, an actual
up.
fucking black magic ass tome,
Literally straight up. It
and
just says black magic.
black magic for dummies or something, and they read from it.
And they be turned into monsters.
They just turn into monsters, and Casey Kasem does his scary voice.
He's got a scary voice.
Yeah. And then they just turn back. It's such a weird random scene. It just confirms the existence of real ass magic in this universe.
Yes.
So if there were any doubts that going to the 70s would like reduce the power scaling potential, I think it was dashed in our minds in this first episode here.
So this means that Ebenezer may have actually been immortal. He doesn't actually show up at any point during the episode, but since they do have real ass black magic that they never explain, yeah. Ebenezer question mark. So Velma comes out of the closet.
Yeah.
She was in a closet while Scooby and Shaggy were doing all that black magic stuff for the It's like a 2-minute long scene.
Yeah, Velma's just poking around in the closet. Then she comes out of the closet. There is a myriad of jokes that I think we can make with this, but the fact that I actually do support making Velma queer in future incarnations of Scooby Doo
Oh
means
yeah,
that
absolutely.
this is just a funny little coincidence.
She is 100% somewhere LGBT. Like, there's no doubt about it in my mind.
Yeah. So, uh, anyways,
They
we
find a
just
lens.
they find a lens. Yeah. So they find a receipt for a lens, and then they go to the freaking glassblower shop to like,
Man's name is Specht.
yeah, Mr. Specht. Um, and they uh they take the lens out on rental because it's like a high grade telescopic lens. Fred puts it up to his eye and he becomes a cyclops very briefly.
That may or may not be the thumbnail to this episode.
Yeah. And then they go the wrong way on a one-way street with the Spectre just freaking starfish latched to the top of the van. Like,
Oh man, that part is fantastic.
oh,
Um,
this episode is like hilarious for like all the like weirdest reasons.
oh, absolutely. It's not necessary. It's a good Scooby Doo story. It's really one of the better episodes we watched in that um session of watching stuff, I guess.
Yeah, because we watch this in chunks, viewers. So like, we kind of we don't like binge it all. We watch in like 6 to 8 episode chunks. So we're a few episodes ahead of where we're recording. Just some movie magic for the viewers at home there. Anyways, yeah, that whole section is just a whole lot of just oh lordy.
Oh, my kitty's coming to visit.
Oh.
Yes.
Um
Yes.
so after the Spectre like hops on the top of the van, they all just leave the van in the road and
They just run.
they just run.
They abandon the van in the middle of a busy intersection the wrong way on a one-way street.
Oh,
And
Fred got a parking ticket.
Fred got more than a parking ticket. He probably has a moving violation.
Fred's going to traffic court.
I wouldn't doubt it. So after this, they try and set up a trap for the Spectre, as is the formulaic way.
Yeah, good to know Fred's ridiculous traps have been a very constant staple of this series.
And actually, since we have watched a little bit more of this, Fred is way more powerful in this incarnation of Scoob than he was in What's New.
Yeah, this might be one of the more powerful incarnations of Fred.
Oh, absolutely. I would not doubt it. There is some really crazy stuff that happens during this chase with the Spectre on this high rise because they're basically on exposed girders, just the skeleton of the building running everywhere. There's wheelbarrows all over the place. This entire work site is just a big OSHA violation waiting to be exposed.
This is so many OSHA violations.
Okay. And then after this chase, which has my favorite gag in it, which is a seesaw gag in which Scooby jumps on a seesaw, propelling Shaggy into the air, and then he falls right back down onto the seesaw again, propelling Scooby up into the air. And then I think Scoob thinks that Shaggy got turned to dust because he breaks some sandbags.
With the sandbag.
Ooh, hello, kitty.
Cat is in frame.
Cat is in frame. Here's the cat tax, everyone. There we go.
All right. So after that little interruption.
They managed to catch the Spectre by using some quick-drying cement, and they also catch Ebenezer's granddaughter, who is supposed to be there. Excuse me. You ever have a sneeze?
And it just doesn't come? Yeah, no.
It doesn't come. You think it's going to come, but it... There we go. Okay.
Your threshold was so high it actually cut out your mic for a moment.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, so they catch the Spectre and his granddaughter in quick drying cement, revealing the Spectre to be the foreman at the construction site, and Jim Rivets as the
It's
grandma.
man with the refrigerator freaking chest. It's just little old Nettie Crab.
He is actually like quite a large manly man who has obviously been working construction his whole life.
Yeah,
But he's also
probably the jackhammer.
really, really good at being a grandma. Like ridiculously good at pretending to be a grandma.
I
And so the villain's plan was they were using this telescopic lens to view people looking into their safes and then getting the combinations and then breaking in and getting the safe. And honestly, I kind of like the direction that the Scooby Doo show has gone, in that a lot of this, they actually do have some setup and they get some suspects. And there's an actual crime there with like strategy and stuff rather
yeah
than just it's real estate.
yeah,
We're
and
always going for real estate.
we'll talk about that in probably what is our one of our favorite episodes, but that will have to wait for episode 2. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but what I personally like about the mystery in this episode is that you have the mystery of these safe break-ins that initially seems completely unrelated to whatever's going on with the Spectre, but at the end of this episode, everything ties up into like the neatest little bow I think I've ever seen a Scooby Doo episode tie into. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I remember when we were first watching this, you watched this episode just to
Yeah.
like make sure that like this was like the direction we wanted to go on your
Yeah.
show. And
Yeah.
then when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
brought me in, you said to me, you said, "Don't worry, Zach. There's a good reason for all of this bullshit."
And there
And
was.
that's really what this episode is. There's a very good, reasonable explanation for all of the bullshit that goes on in this episode.
Okay, so what did we give that one?
Overall, we were fairly positive on this episode. As a bit of a clusterfuck as it is, we were fairly positive on this episode. I
Mm-hmm.
gave it a 7.0 out of 10, a 7.0 out of 10, with the best gag being that bucket pulley gag that I mentioned
Mm-hmm.
earlier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Penn, what did you give it?
I gave an 8 out of 10, with the best my gag being the seesaw and sandbag thing,
Yeah.
which leads us to a 7.5 average score on this, which is actually quite good, especially for the first episode of a new series.
Mm-hmm. I believe our first episode of What's New got a 6 or maybe a 7 flat.
Yep. And now on to the Fiesta Host is an Aztec ghost.
I
Still hurts
these
to say it. It twists your tongue in all the wrong ways.
these episode titles, man. It's just gonna be worse from here on out. It's just gonna get worse.
In which we find out about the Aztec Moon God. Scoob and Shag eat a tablecloth, and some civil engineers make a way, way, way too complicated project in order to smuggle out Aztec treasures.
Yeah. So how this starts is the gang is driving into Mexico. I feel like I've heard this somewhere before. Uh,
Hmm.
and they end up encountering a giant footprint. I also feel like I've heard this somewhere before in Mexico. And we also learn that Fred can calculate the size of anything just from its feet.
Yep. Yeah, no, he correctly estimates it to be a 50-foot tall being from its shoe size.
Yep.
He worked at Payless Shoes. He knows what he's doing.
I guess, hey. And anyways, the gang is heading to the village of Cinco, which means the village of 5. And yeah,
They're
they
there
they
for a fiesta. They're just there for a
yeah
party, really.
yeah
And once they get there, they find a weird statue that stands there, and they talk about how it represents a god figure.
yep.
And then when
And
they, oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was just about to say initially upon getting into it. This is, of course, old Daphne, which old Daphne is, her personality is girl.
Yeah, she doesn't really do anything.
She thinks the Rock is a man
The Rock.
because girl cannot be smart and also be hot.
Hmm.
Velma's supposed to be not appealing. Daphne, God,
Was the
man.
70s. But that's how it is. That's how it is until like what was it? When they removed Velma and Fred from the show in the 80s, and it was just Daphne and Shag and Scoob. Then she had some character because she had to, because the other
Yeah.
ones were gone.
Yeah.
But right now, this is the series after Where Are You, which he doesn't have a lot of character, is what we're trying to say. But that's just how it is. Anyway, the statue gets up and starts growling at them. They also find a hotel and start talking to some people, and they find out it's Montezuma's revenge.
Yeah, they meet the hotel owner, who is just this man named Juan Martinez, because those were the two Spanish animators who were working on this, were Juan and somebody named Martinez, and they combined them. And Mr. Juan Martinez explains that the ghost of Montezuma and the Phantom Barge have been scaring everybody away, so they can't hold their little town festival.
Mm-hmm. It's lame.
Just, the ghost of Montezuma.
What? What's up? You don't have Montezuma ghost?
No.
But at this
point, I would like to mention that this episode has the exact same plot as Monster of Mexico.
It does.
The gang goes on a road trip to Mexico. They encounter a big-footed ghost. They go to a hotel where the hotel manager is the quest giver that gives them the mystery to find the big-footed ghost.
How do they place these footprints without anyone noticing?
I don't know. I don't know, because shortly after meeting the British...
Yes, the archaeologist and his wife.
Yeah, they meet this British couple who claim to have released the ghost of Montezuma by exploring the pyramids. Good job, guys. They see a giant footprint out on the lawn after the one of the British archaeologists gets hijacked by the ghost. That happens.
Yeah, it does. There are also other strange things going on. Like there's a river barge that shows up occasionally, and the man in charge of the hotel where they're supposed to be staying says that it disappears without a trace every night underneath a bridge.
Yeah. So
there is also one thing I neglected to mention. So the reason that they stumble onto this is because there's a footprint in the middle of the goddamn road. It's literally, they fall into a foot-shaped depression in the road. How do you build that without somebody driving up and hitting this flipping gigantic footprint in the middle of the road?
I don't know, dude.
They eventually end up getting chased around by this weird stone golem man who just sort of growls at them and goes, "Mwah."
Yeah, all he does is growl. That is literally all this stone golem does.
It's very strange. And we do have another listing on the ominous scale, which is the Boatman.
Yeah, so after the British archaeologist gets kidnapped, the gang decides to investigate the Phantom Barge. So they go to rent a boat, and they meet the Boatman. And the Boatman is just needlessly creepy and weird towards the gang.
I know what you want. I know where you are going. Like, he's just really weird, and it's especially strange because he shows up as a throwaway character, as you're supposed to think, like, maybe this man is Montezuma, but he
No,
doesn't actually do anything.
he's in this one scene. He's just strange boatman.
Okay, what else is there? They eventually manage to go into the
The big
pyramids.
yeah. And Velma is just genuinely bewildered and defeated when Shaggy turns on the light switch.
Mm-hmm. He just finds a light switch in the middle of some Aztec tomb, and it's really weird. It's really, really weird, especially when they start talking about the Aztec Moon God. And as if any viewers know this, I'm obsessed with the moon in Scooby Doo
Yeah,
because it is
yeah.
consistently incredibly large.
So
Consistently.
so before we get to that, I'll just quickly cover what leads us to getting to the Aztec Moon God.
Mhm.
The gang splits up to search the pyramids. Shaggy and Scooby run around. They find a shop vac and get attacked by the stone golem. Then they meet up with the gang again. Whereas the gang got attacked by Montezuma's ghost, and they run into a different chamber. And when they all meet up, they sort of sneak into another chamber where Montezuma locks them in. And Velma, God bless your heart, Velma, reads the goddamn Aztec hieroglyphs because she's fluent and determines that they are in a secret sanctum of the Aztec Moon God, and there's a moon door that will activate using mirrors.
Yeah.
So, Pen, would you like to enlighten us about the Aztec Moon God?
Okay, so the Aztec Moon God is apparently a thing like the Aztecs, they have this thing where if moonlight hits a particular spot on in their pyramid, it opens up a secret passageway to. Look, here's the thing: the moon in Scooby Doo is consistently extremely large. It is extremely large in the night sky every time it has ever been shown. And I know that this is probably just an art department thing, but here at TSDR we take a professional interest into looking too far into things.
Yes,
That
indeed we do.
moon means something. It means something. And the fact that there's even an Aztec moon god being mentioned means that it's important. It's important. I just don't know what. I just don't know how, but the moon is important somehow.
This is the point where if it was licensed, I would play "Oh Yeah" by Yellow because you are absolutely doing the Charlie Kelly conspiracy theory board
Shut
from
up.
Pepe Sylvia.
Pepe Sylvia is real.
I got boxes full of Pepe. Boxes.
Um, they explore this pyramid and eventually they figure out that they need to stake out the disappearing barge, which
Yeah,
they do, which
yeah,
actually brings us to that creepy boatman who lets them take a boat down the river. And they take a boat down the river and they find this barge, and then it just disappears while they're looking at it,
yeah,
which we see later is just not what happens. It's just not.
yeah. So eventually, they, after some Scooby Snack convincing, still the best buff in the game.
Absolutely.
Scooby and Shaggy and the rest of the gang sort of scuttle themselves onto the Phantom Barge and end up in a secret cave underneath the bridge.
Yes. With water access, meaning that they dug a tunnel underneath the bridge and the road with water to build a secret passageway to get their Aztec loot out of there.
How how do you and there's
Civil
and it's not
engineering.
like it's not like a small cave either. This is like a warehouse for like smuggling stolen Aztec treasure out of the country. This is the kind of thing that would make Amelia von Butch weep a tear of joy.
And that civil engineer guy who had the weird robot scorpion, he would probably be he'd be pretty cheesed, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Also, I'm realizing now that smuggling things out of the country is actually a lot of these plots.
kind of is. When we get to Dr. Coffin in episode 3, we'll talk a
Yes,
bit more about that.
the wilds of Canada. Uh, um, at this point, we get our final trap sequence in which
Yeah.
Fred holds all of the gang above him meaning that, and he's like running at probably
full tilt.
full tilt, just flipping running for it with the entire gang on his back, and then there's a pole and Scooby grabs the pole and they all swing around. Oh,
Yeah, they maintain cohesive stack.
the Fred stack. That's my favorite gag, by the way, is the Fred stack.
I'll get to my favorite gag at the end here because it's a constant throughout the episode. But
okay, go ahead.
But yeah, the Fred stack is pretty good.
And once we get to the final trap sequence, Fred manages to stick some really, really incredibly bouncy springs on the bottom of both Montezuma and the stone golem's feet, and eventually they bounce off into the water and are caught by the gang.
Yeah, they fall onto a barrel that Scooby was previously manipulating using.
Listen, Scooby drifted a barrel.
Manipulation.
He drifted that goddamn barrel, okay? He drifted that barrel.
Yeah. So to get to my favorite gag from the episode, because it is a constant, every time the stone golem is on screen, it is constantly just making these sounds like it's trying to hawk a loogie. Every time, it's hilarious. That's my favorite gag in the episode.
It's
Fred
also
stack is good, but gets me every time, man.
It's also really funny because that's the archaeologist's wife
in
the stone golem suit. So she's just
she's just making that noise. The whole episode. Like, girl, you're gonna need some freaking halls
now
after doing that.
This one we rated quite low because honestly it's a little bit incomprehensible for us, and I think we were a little bit zonked out, just like, what the heck is happening? Wow.
This episode is an absolute flustercluck.
Very good for the censors.
Just a complete flustercluck. And I did not like it. I was tempted to go with a what out of 10, but it didn't. No. It like, once you kind of watch it a second time, you're like, okay, I kind of get it.
But we still gave it a 5.5, both of us.
Yeah, barely a passing grade.
And now the really good episode again, featuring one of the most iconic monsters from this era, and also a new character. This episode being the gruesome game of the Gator Ghoul,
which sounds like a chapter in a Percy Jackson novel, but sure, cool.
Did they have Gator Ghouls in the Percy Jackson novels?
I don't know.
So this is our first appearance of Scooby-Dum, who is Scooby-Doo's brother in this weird timeline that we're in.
Yeah. Scooby-Dum, just before we kind of go into the episode, let's talk briefly about our opinions on Scooby-Dum. Mm-hmm. Because I don't mind Scooby-Dum.
No, it's not that bad.
As far as gimmick characters to liven up the gang and the formula goes, there have been a lot worse.
We do not speak his name.
There have been a lot worse. And Scooby-Dum is also he's also a lot better than a lot of those other ones because he's not a constant in this show. He's not in every episode. He's in maybe once every 4-ish episodes.
Yeah, he comes in every now and again.
Yeah. But he is very much not there. He's not a constant presence. He's there enough to warrant his inclusion in the intro, but
yeah.
He's not every episode you have to deal with Scooby-Dum being around.
He does not overstay his welcome, unlike Scrappy.
I thought we did not speak that.
Shush.
Anyways, the gang kind of is driving through the swamps of Louisiana, and we get the best soundbite of any monster. One of my favorite sound bites, and we seem to be talking a lot about Monster of Mexico this episode because the soundbite gets used for the Chupacabra.
Yep.
In that one.
It is the exact same.
And the Gator Ghoul soundbite is this EA Sports kind of, but
I'll see if I can find it and put it in the I'll see if we can edit this in.
Yeah. Might only be in the YouTube version. Anyways, let's consider the Gator Ghoul here, and the Gator Ghoul kind of shows up, and it's just got these like searcher beams, like predator vision that beams on the gang, and they actually see it while going on a ferry across the swamp because they're going to a restaurant to speak
Eat,
to
eat
Ma and Pa.
fritters.
Yeah, speak to Ma and Pa Skillet, who are Scooby-Dum's owners.
Hmm.
I think they're related to Shaggy.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think Shaggy only knows them because they're famous. They have really good fritters, and he wants to eat those fritters. And those fritters should not, I don't think that anyone should eat those fritters considering what happens at the end of the episode.
Yeah, no.
No one should be consuming these if they're that sticky. No one. No one should be eating them. You're going to get a glob in your digestive tract and die.
Yeah.
Also, that fritter fights Scooby-Dum's stomach at
Yeah.
a point.
Yeah. They're alive. Anyways, so they meet up with Scooby-Dum in the swamp outside the Skillet's Riverboat restaurant, and we get to see Scooby-Dum, who's kind of like a hillbilly Scooby-Doo, who's like obsessed with clues.
He wants to be a detective, and he puts his Sherlock Holmes hat on all the time. And he goes,
Yeah. It's
that's him.
like I said, if he was in every episode, it would get grading pretty fast. But since he's not in all of them, it's fine. It's fine.
So
Uh,
a lot of this is just them running around this riverboat restaurant attraction.
yeah,
They do find a few more suspects. Ma and Pa Skillet, a woman named Alice Dovely,
yeah,
Mr. Stingy.
yeah. Who has just zero chill.
No, he's very angry.
Good God, this man has zero chill. And we also get several encounters with the Gator Ghoul in this episode. Again, the Gator Ghoul, one of the more iconic monsters from this era, right up there with my main man, the Tar Monster, and my boy Jaguaro.
Praise be to Jaguaro.
Can't wait till we get to Jaguaro. And we get to see Scooby-Dum fight the Gator Ghoul briefly. And this is basically where we learn that Scooby-Dum is Domino from X-Force.
He's very, very, very lucky.
Yeah.
He's failing upwards at any given moment.
Yeah. And Scooby gets his ass called out when this happens.
Yeah. Why aren't you more like Scooby-Dum, Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And it's at that point that Scooby beats up Mr. Stingy, and that man has no chill.
Zero chill. I think that Scooby-Doo needs to go to Louisiana more because a lot of things that happen, like a lot of the Scooby media that happens in Louisiana, Zombie Island, the Ballad of Crawdad Mike, a lot of things that happen in Louisiana are very good. They just have this real nice Cajun style to it, and I've always loved it.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, and this episode is no exception. Like, I'm having a hard time describing this episode because not much happens in it, but all that happens in it is just genuinely good, genuine, like the platonic ideal of Scooby-Doo.
They get chased around a lot.
Yeah,
Stuff happens.
You get a lot of the Gator Ghoul. You get a lot of that classic soundbite. You just get the classic Scooby-Doo from this thing, and you also get the gang splitting up for one of the longest sections of this episode. And sort of two things go on here. Fred and the girls search two spooky cabins.
Mm-hmm.
One of which where they find an old movie poster that depicts a monster similar to the Gator Ghoul, which leads them to starting to believe that the Gator Ghoul might be a fake using props from the film.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second house that they go to, they find a bunch of torn up paper that appears to be a pink slip. A couple of pink slips came into the mail. One for you, one for me. I stuck them in a box and I mailed them halfway to Siberia. And Yeah, so the gang tries to reassemble the pink slip. Well, not Fred. While Shaggy, Scooby, and Scooby-Dum are on the boat, supposed to be looking for the Gator Ghoul, but no, they're making fritters. Would
They
you like
find
to tell us about them making fritters, Pen?
All right, so they find this machine that makes fritters, and they try to zoop up some fritter batter. Eventually, finding it to be so sticky that it it captures Shaggy's shoes within itself, and it's so sticky that they cannot remove it, despite taking the bucket of fritter batter across the room. It's that stretchy and that sticky that when they release it and they let it go, it flies across the room back onto Shag's feet.
Yeah,
You shouldn't eat this. Don't
yeah,
eat it.
no, that is some
Don't eat it.
overdeveloped gluten if I have ever seen it.
Holy crap. Um,
Don't
this
over knead your dough if you're making bread at home. By the
this
way,
of course is one of the other this is one of the this is how Fred manages to capture um
the
the
Gator
Gator
Ghoul.
Ghoul
Yeah,
with this batter. And this is one of those things that makes Fred a lot more powerful in this timeline, because that flippin' fritter batter might be one of the stickiest substances on this earth.
yeah. We're dealing with like basically sovereign glue from D&D.
You're never gonna get that apart. Never again.
No.
That is also my favorite gag from this episode, is the ridiculous stretch of this thing.
Yeah, we're coming up on my favorite gag here, which is when they set up the final trap for the Gator Ghoul. Uh, Shaggy, Do, and Dumb uh, bait the Gator Ghoul into chasing them around the riverboat for a bit, and we get a nice wide shot of the riverboat where we get a 2-level flat hallway gag, and it's a really good hallway gag because you have this beautiful hand drawn background that looks like something from the old Looney Tunes, and it makes me feel warm inside looking at
It
that hallway gag.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Yeah, so they do this hallway gag, and eventually they lure the Gator Ghoul into the kitchen where Shaggy, Scooby Doo, and Scooby-Dum, who are all covered in flour, are immune to the sticky effects of the bunch of fritter batter laying on the ground. But the Gator Ghoul gets stuck in it, and he just sound bites his way into defeat.
Then it turns out that the Gator Ghoul is actually Alice Dovely, an employee of Ma and Pa Skillet. You want to explain why she was doing
keep
this?
going.
Okay,
Yeah.
so she got a pink slip from the Cookie Cola Company, a company mentioned by a few people in the episode, that she was being fired. So she decided to try and scare off Ma and Pa Skillet so that she could sell their recipe for these ridiculous fritters and their cola to
The
can't
Cookie
remember who
Cola
it is.
Company.
Back to
Yeah.
the Coca-Cola Company. She wanted to get revenge because she had been fired from her position, and she decided that the best way to do so was to dress up as an alligator and put some flashlight batteries in her eyes
Fucking
to
tack lights.
to have
Predator vision.
predator vision. It's weird.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like that's the plot of the episode.
Yeah, it doesn't quite wrap up as neatly in a bow as a high rise terror did.
No.
But it's the fucking Gator Ghoul, man. Like, come on,
So
it's a goddamn Gator Ghoul. It's
that's
iconic.
that's the 3 episodes that we had for today. So
Yeah.
what do we give this one, Zach?
We scored this one the same as we did High Rise Terror, but instead
7.5.
of me giving a 7 and you giving an 8, we both gave it a 7.5.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that brings us to the end of the episode, right?
Yes, it sure does. Would you like to enlighten us with our scorecard, Pen?
All right. Our scorecard. We are still at 1 instance of Scrappy Doo. We're not going to be getting any for this. So we might actually want to try a different sort of scorecard, since I'm not sure that any of the categories we currently have will actually be scored on over
All
the
right then.
next
So
period.
How about we score, instead of Scrappy, we'll score Scooby-Dum. And
Okay.
instead of terrorism, petty crime.
Crimes. Okay.
Yeah, the gang committing petty crime.
Okay. In that case, we have one instance of Scooby-Dum and actually one instance of petty crime because they do commit a breaking and entering.
Yeah, they break into Sam Stingy's cabin in the Gator Ghoul episode.
Absolutely. There's definitely not going to be any Tom Kenny in here, and they're probably not going to commit a lot of terrorism. If you enjoy our podcast and would like to contact us, you can follow us on Twitter at do_review or email us at the scoobydooreview@gmail.com. And that's the episode, everybody. Thanks for listening. And remember, we wouldn't have a podcast without these meddling kids and their dumb dog. And also the dumber dog. There's
That's actually
one.
named Dumb.
His name is Dumb. Was he born like this? Oh, anyway, that's the end of the episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye.